Hey y'all, I'm sorry I can't be with you. I'm on the road right now. In addition to our regular warm-up, run your chromatic scale, your C major, 1st, 5th, and 7th. I want to focus a little more, kick this semester off with a little more rhythmic work. So I want to make sure that we're well-versed in our open position chords before we move on to some intricacies and inversions and things like that. So we're going to cover that real quick. Most of these chords are going to work in the key of C and also in G. There are a few variations, though, that will only work in C and only in G, and we will cover that in more detail after we go through the chords themselves. So we have A minor. You should be familiar with that. Then C. Now we have two forms of D. D minor, which works in C, key of C, and D major, which works in the key of G. And right now we're only thinking about those two keys. Okay, so we did D minor, D major. Now we have two forms of E as well. E minor, all the way through, and E major. E minor will work in both C and G. The E major will only work in the key of C, technically A minor, the relative. If you don't understand that right now, that's fine. I know some of us know that scale and some don't, so don't worry too much about it. But just know, E minor works in both keys, E major only in A minor key, okay? So, just to review, because I know that got a little off topic. A minor, C, D minor, D major, E minor, E major. Then we have F major, which can be a couple of variations. You can either do it like I'm actually barring the B and the high E on the first fret with the first finger. You can do it like that. You could also leave the E string open, so it's like a C, but those two move down. And then you have kind of I believe it's a suspended variation, where you have that E on the bottom there, okay? Okay, so after F, of course, we have G. And again, there's a few forms of this. You can do it like that. You can do it like that with the pinky and the second finger, however you like to do that, okay? So those are our basic open position chords. And again, we only had two that had multiples, which was D minor, D major, and E minor, E major, okay? So again, just to review, because I know we didn't go over these quite as much, for D minor, first finger, first fret, high E string, which is an F, B string, third finger, third fret, which is a D, second finger, second fret, G string, which is an A, and then we play from the D string down, so we don't play the top two. There's our D minor. Now to make it a D major, for you piano players, this will make sense. We're just going to raise the third, which is actually this. Now you could technically go like that, but that's not how we're going to do it. We're actually going to shift our position. It's almost like making a sideways peace sign. Second finger, second fret, high E string. First finger, second fret, G string. Third finger, third fret, B string, and again we play from the D string down. So only one note has changed between those two chords, right? Just that F sharp, but we're doing this for a reason. So now we have more versatility that we can move those fingers around. So get used to those two forms. Now they're not going to be used in the same key again. D minor goes in the key of A minor, which is the relative of C, and then your D major is going to go in the key of G, relative E minor. Okay. Now the other set that we had was E major and E minor. Okay. E minor is going to work again in both keys, in G and C and their relatives. The major is just going to work in the key of A minor. I think we kind of just went over that. But again, the only difference is E minor, major is just putting down that first finger. And so again, for those that understand theory or piano, all that's happening from the major to the minor is the third. Again, we taught triads 1, 3, and 5. The third is going up. So you don't have to know this to play these, but to some of you, this may help you process how we're doing that and how we're changing the chords up, okay? But anyway, so practice a lot through those chords, get really used to them. Now this is more of an optional thing here. We're gonna go into it, but I will show you a few 7th chord shapes too, if you're super comfortable already with all of those. So we know A minor. We can actually just take off the third finger. So now we have that open G. There's our A minor 7, okay? Okay, good. And actually, that's probably, we'll do that, and we'll also do E major 7. And then all you have to do is move these two up. Or think of it as an E major. Again, just like the A minor, we take off the third finger. And what we're doing is adding in, the triad is 1, 3, 5, we're adding in the 7th note. Okay, so we won't go too deep into that. I'll do that when I have the board to illustrate things. But if you want to go into the 7th chords, you feel free to do that. Now, let me see, I've got my review right here. I wanted to talk a little bit about palm muting. I want to get a little further into the rhythm technique, if you will. So we've gotten used to our chord or our strumming pattern, which is the down, up, down, up with the consistent eighth note patterns. Now we're going to talk about some things we can do with the right hand to make some accents. So palm muting is what it sounds like. We're going to mute with our palms. You're going to take this area of your hand, you're going to place it not all the way back on the bridge. You want it touching the strings. You'll notice the more I move up, the more they die out. The more I move back, the more of them you hear. Okay, so to start off, I would just do downstroke quarter notes. Get used to moving your hand to the point that you can hear the notes of the chord. And you don't want this, right? But we also don't want completely open. We want to hear. So we do that in the context of a chord progression. It would sound like this. And then we can start to add in some variations with dynamics as we get better. So we're really just adding more dynamics in, right? So you can think of it too. Say you're singing a chorus and a verse, you know, where the chords are the same. Maybe in the verse you want it to be a little more subdued. Then the chorus comes, so you build it. So we can hear the dynamic difference there. Okay, so practice that. And one thing you can do once you get used to it is to practice palm muting and also open notes, and maybe play two. Like, so whatever chord you want to do, I would recommend doing one that uses all 6 strings, just so you don't have to worry about not hitting strings right now, because I want you to focus more on the right hand. So 1, 2. So open, mute, open, mute, open, mute, open, mute, and so on. Okay, so get used to that. It's relative. If you want to have a little more muting, you can, but we need to make sure, of course, that we can hear the notes of those strings. So now, then I'm going to have y'all just, you know the recital song, you know your parts. I would like you to run that a couple of times. And if anybody wants to practice improvisation, feel free. Now, speaking of that, we're going to go into some chord progressions. I'm just going to show these to you. These are more optional. I'm not making you do these, but I was figuring you could take some of these. Whichever ones you like, you could play, and whichever ones you didn't, that's fine. But I just want to show you what they sound like so you can go ahead and play them if you like them. So the first one is going to be A minor, F, C, and G. So I'm going to play all these in a similar fashion, but no, you can also play different time signatures. You can strum, you can finger pick, so there's a lot of variations. But this one, strum, would be a... Okay, next one's going to be A minor, G, F, E. So we're actually just walking down A minor, G, F, E. Vibe right there. The next one is going to be A minor, D minor, E major. There's what we were talking about earlier. Back to A minor. Again, another kind of Spanish sounding progression. A minor, D minor. There's that new one. E major, and then back to A minor. So. Okay. And the last one in the key of C. These have all been in the key of C. Is going to be C, F, G, and back to C. Okay, it's good. And that's not an exhaustive list. Of course, you can mix any of these chords in any variations that you would like, but these are the more common ones that you'll hear. Now we're going to move on to a couple of progressions in the key of G/E minor. And again, for those that are theory-minded, again, all that's changing in that from C/A minor to go to G/E minor is same scale, except the F is now raised to F sharp. Everything else stays exactly the same. Meaning also in your chords, like we saw, anywhere there was an F, that's now an F sharp, which is why D minor has an F natural and D major has an F sharp. So again, if you don't understand that, that's fine, but I know some of y'all do, and I think that'll help you visualize. And so here's our 2 progressions in the key of G/E minor. We're going to start with an E minor chord. Okay, then we're going to play, so it's going to be E minor, C, G, D, sound like this. Now, a little variation we can do, we can actually do an anchor finger if you want to try this. If you put your 3rd finger on the D, 3rd fret of the B string, and that's going to stay there the whole progression, that is going to mean that we amend our fingering for the E, because right, we're using 2 and 3. Now we have to use 1 and 2 because we're playing the 3rd here, but you can now transition all your chords like that. E minor with that D in it. Now the C becomes C add 9 to G, to D, or a D with an F, D with an F sharp in the bass, for those of you that know that one. So if you did it that way, it would sound like this. Sorry. So it gives it a little more consistency. So whichever one you prefer is totally fine. And the last one we're going to look at today is going to be G, D, E minor, C. So G, D, E minor, back to C. Okay, so. And we can do the same thing if we want to anchor that third finger. So of course you could take these, for example, those two progressions I just played, put them together, you've got a verse and a chorus, you've got an entire song there. Now just put your lyrics or your melody on the guitar over it and you've got a composition of your own. So there you go, pick and choose which ones of those you like. Go ahead and try to make up some of your own by using those chords. Let me know if you have any questions and I will look super forward to seeing you all next week when I get back. God bless.